Well, early start this morning. I'm on my way to Lexington, Kentucky. We have some horses in there today. Tomorrow morning I'm going to stay overnight. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to train Hanger 1 at Lexington in preparation of his next race. And then I'm going to head to Scioto. Yannick Gingras is going to drive Captain Incredible on Tuesday afternoon. I just couldn't make Judy's Money and Captain Incredible. And if I'm going to be in Scioto for the rest of the card anyway, it made more sense to put somebody else on Captain Incredible. He's raced well for Dave. I don't think he's a horse that I'm concerned about as far as making breaks or anything of that nature anymore. So I certainly had no issue putting Yannick on the horse. So Monday mornings always give me a chance to reflect on everything that went on yesterday and the weeks before, or the week before, whether it be, in response to emails or videos, calls that I may have had, just interactions with our other trainers or the vets, just updates, right? It gives me a chance to put all that into perspective. And with respect to last night, there won't be any more information until tomorrow when we get the blood work back on Supermind and Uncle Danny. Obviously, both horses were very flat last night. I still have a lot of trouble wrapping my head around it. Jason was the one that said this morning also, what about the heat? I said, well, it always, when we grasp at stuff like that, it's not to say that he's not right, but I have to ask myself the question. I always say the same thing to you. Everybody else had to race in the heat, right? So using it as a reason subjectively that our horses were a little flat last night, I find it really hard to sink my teeth into that. So I want to get a look at what is going on, or what went on last night with those horses, because I really thought Supermind was a winner, and although I didn't think Uncle Danny could win from 6-hole if that rail horse was good, which he was last night, but there was nothing really stopping him from being second, third, or fourth. And quite frankly, the fifth was only because Aaron's horse had made a break in the first turn. So I did expect more from him. Rico Tubbs, after speaking to Ronnie this morning, what I had said to you last night after the races was pretty much bang on. Didn't do his best work on the front. He thought there was much more there. But he thought he would race better off a helmet or open him up. Open bridle, can't see back, which I don't disagree with either statement. I already know he doesn't do his best work on the front end training. This is the first time he's been on the front. Remember, when I raced him when he won in 57-3, he was out of the 2-hole. Dave Plone raced him from off the pace. So this was the first time in that type of setting where he was on the front end, and I kind of seen this show before when he trained weights, just green, waiting for horses, and got picked off the wire, right? I talked about it at length last night in the video, and I think everything I had said was correct and confirmed this morning by Ronnie. But nevertheless, he will get better, and he did trot well. He said he seemed like a nice little horse and raced really well. So there's nothing more we can say about that. We'll talk about the other horse that raced again. Well, you can talk about it quickly, I guess. Riding the rodeo, a number of people over the last few weeks have asked me, what's wrong with her? I don't know that there's anything wrong with her. She is what she is. And, last night, first over into the 2 favorites, I think she was a lukewarm 3rd favorite, posed to be a problem. The bettors said it would be, and they were correct last night. Do we stay in next time? Do we leave a little harder, try to get into the 2-hole rather than the 3-hole? The problem with doing that is, say you leave, get around the 1, 3 clears to the front, the 1 at 6-5 is going to remove the quarter pole. Now you're right where you could have been anyway, only used your filly up getting there. So I think in hindsight, and again, this is not fair to Austin or anybody, but stay in with the filly, don't move her. But, had he won last night, you'd be like, yeah, see, he drove her perfect. So it's really unfair to comment. But in regards to the filly, I think everybody, and this is going to be the overarching sentiment over the next 3-4 weeks to everybody, it's not even so much as that your expectations are wrong or my expectations are wrong, is that we had no information to go on. I always say this when we're training the horses down, right? I like how our horses are training, but I have no idea how everybody else's are training. And in regards to Ohio in particular, I had used the phrase, and I said this a number of times this year, historically speaking. We'll throw it out the window, because there's nothing to discern from looking at the historical results in Ohio, because they don't pertain to 2025 at all, right? Every division's a little bit stronger, a little bit deeper, a little bit faster. And I think it's a nod to the improvements in the breeding here, but makes it very difficult as you train your horses down to say, man, I got a really nice horse. Well, everybody does. And that's what you're seeing in Ohio. And again, it's so hard. I had a conversation. Again, I'm trying my best not to melt everything I wanted to talk about together, but I had a number of people message me and say, I know she only won a grassroots, but what about Blue Rare in the Peaceful Way? I don't think so. We have a good filly doing good work. Let's allow her to continue to do good work. Don't ask her to do more than she can do, right? And I think this is one of those circumstances. And Blue Rare is a nice filly. I told you guys I thought she was one of the nicest Ontario breds we'd ever trained. She was. She's got to dig down a little deeper than she had a couple of times before, but I thought she raced rather well in her last start, and I think there is a lot of improvement there. But again, you're looking at another deep division of horses. So it's going to get, it's never going to be easy. I still think the best way to go about things is looking at it through the lens of value when you're at the sales. Because if you simply think, if it was as easy as just to win and buy the best horse, well, then all the richest people would own all the best horses. And that's not the case. Not in Ontario, not in Ohio. I don't watch Pennsylvania that closely, so I can't comment on Pennsylvania. But when you look at Ohio, it was so, well, it wasn't funny, but it was insightful. I had just a brief conversation with Ron Burke, just sitting there in front of the program page in the paddock, looking at a race that was coming up in Northfield, and we were talking about the 2-year-old trotting colts. Just that particular distinction. And he said, it's so tough this year in this division. He said, like the banker horse he has, he said, I thought when he was training down, or at least when he had qualified, that he was a layover. They're not going to beat this colt. Finished 4th last night, made a break in his last start. Very similar trajectory to a couple of our horses. The ones we mentioned at the start of this video. So it isn't that the biggest trainers are winning all the races, right? It's not easy. Chris Beaver had a couple of nice horses race last night. He's got the best colt, I believe, in Kentucky, or one of them, and he is a monster. They give nothing for him. So I think you still have to approach the sales through the lens of value. I believe so. Anyway, I don't think there's any reason to change that approach. But we have to understand, when we train our horses down and we race our horses, there are other people out there that are very smart horsemen. They're very good trainers, and they too can have good horses. So I think that's what I'm trying to get at with Blue Rare and Riding the Rodeo. It isn't that these horses have let me down, so to speak. It's that's a deep division. Those are deep divisions. They all are, for the most part. I mean, Doc Moore had a 2-year-old pacing colt, and we don't have an Ontario bred 2-year-old pacing colt. First race, first start lifetime, 150 flat over Mohawk. When would you ever see that before in the past? Ever. It just wouldn't happen. And we've had good luck. I mean, Perfect Thought's going to do good things in New Jersey. Jailbird Jog's going to do great things in Kentucky. Those are 2 cases. And we do have good horses. But we really have to take a step back, a deep breath, take a look at the entire distinction, whether it be the 2-year-old pacing fillies in Ohio, the 2-year-old trotting fillies in Ohio, the 2-year-old trotting colts in Ohio or Pennsylvania. We have to understand what we're up against and map out the proper course for each horse. So I'm going to go through a few things that have been rattling around in my head. I didn't sleep much last night. I don't know why. I think yesterday was an odd day for me. I didn't have a lot to do till nighttime. I didn't do a whole lot all day. And I think I drank like a Red Bull at 7 o'clock. I'm telling you, I tossed and turned all night for no particular reason. as far as overall stress and frustration is concerned, it's fairly low. Yeah, we two Colts raced bad last night. We'll figure out why. If you had taken away both their second last starts, now I would have been getting concerned. Uncle Danny went from winning in 57 to being terrible. Superman went from winning in 56 to being terrible. That's a problem. But when you have two horses, one went out winning 56 and 4 last week in Scioto and looked rather strong doing it. Another one came first over and finished third in 56 to two of the best horses in the division. Well, if that didn't happen, this would be a different conversation, but it did. So let's get to the bottom of what took place. Okay, the babies. There's going to be a lot going on the first week of October. All of our babies will be coming in from the field. It looks like one of the babies has a little bone bruise or something in his foot. He's running around the field and probably stepped on something. So we're going to have her looked at the vet. But aside from that, which I assume is nothing, we'll have all the horses in on October the 1st, the week of the October the 1st. Now, our barn is going to go from tumbleweeds to fully extended within, well, I guess before Harrisburg. So Harrisburg will be the cherry on top, so to speak. That will be the finishing touches on our Ohio operation. But our Ohio operation will be bulging before then. We'll have all the 2-year-olds for the most part coming back in. We'll have our own homebreds coming in. We have some other horses that will be coming to us also. So there'll be a lot going on October the 1st. But all those babies, that's when they're slated to come in, is around the Lexington sale time, right? At some point during, before, or just after the sale, those horses will be coming into the barn. We had a number of people talking about the sale today. Just trying to get confirmation on why the horses were up for sale, what our thoughts were on them, what our price points were. We can't keep them all. And when it comes to the horses that we do keep over, there has to be a reason, right? There has to be a flicker. There has to be something there. One, I don't want to be bumping up against the ceiling, which means if what they're doing is what I believe is all they can do, that's a problem, right, for me. Doesn't mean they can't grow and fill out and be mature 3-year-olds, but there are going to be horses I sit behind them and just say, I just don't see a 2026 at the stable for this particular horse. And that's why those horses are up. I mean, Perfection Hanover is Poppy Rob Hanover's brother. He pays 54 come 28. I turned out Leland Hanover, whose mile was not even as good on paper as Perfection Hanover's was. I just think looking at the two horses, there's more upside on Leland Hanover. So we put Perfection Hanover up for sale. Same thing, Go Strong Hanover. I just wanted to see more from this horse. I didn't, so he's up for sale. Captain Doolittle, same thing. Just needed to see more from him. I didn't, so he's up for sale. And Gymboree is out of her class and moving up in class now. Now we have 3 horses in the class above that. I'm not going to give her away, but at the same time, for the right price, we would sell her. That leads, obviously, when we're selling horses, are we going to acquire horses? We bought 2 horses last week. We have 2 or 3 more horses that were on tap. I'll be the first to say the pacer that was selling today I was interested in, but I'm not interested in paying $130,000, $140,000, $50,000 for a horse that raced in, an Illinois bred that did well in Minnesota and did well at Oak Grove. No. There's other horses I'm interested in also. I had a number of hooks in the water to buy a horse for the Gold Cup and Saucer. All of them fell through, but they're still there. We just haven't acted on them yet. We may never, but there will be more horses. I've said this all year, and I am surprised. I was wrong. I thought January through April there'd be lots of 3-year-olds up for sale. We could maybe jump in and grab a few of them. There's been nothing, for the most part, up for sale. And if something of quality did come up, it was generally grossly overpriced. The first horse I thought was reasonably priced was Winter Soldier. Truth be told. I liked the filly on Saturday that was selling. A little skeptical. She was a tall, dark stranger. Showed some talent. Showed some ability. But $60,000, $70,000 is just not, for an hours a 3-4 horse, it's just not something I'm that interested in just yet. Unless there's a lot of upside there. But we will be acquiring and continue to acquire horses over the next little while. We are going to do it. I've been very, very patient throughout the year. And I'm going to continue to be patient. But pick our spots. They'll be there. I think we picked up 2 good ones last week. Now, in regards to the babies, a couple of people, this is mostly in response to emails from people. Where are they at? What are they doing? What are your thoughts? Where are we going? Cherry's girl, we'll start with her. Somebody said, Anthony, you said Sire Stake, but I just don't see it. I don't think she should win the Sire Stakes. Well, we could take her out of the Sire Stakes, but she's not making the Stallion Series final. She could win the last 2 and probably not make the final. Whereas, I think she raced very good in her first Sire Stake, finishing second. And it's not like Ohio where you can race in the consolation for the Sire Stakes and the final of the Stallion Series. They don't let you do that in Pennsylvania. And she's likely going to make the consolation at worst case anyway. But when I see that filly, last week she still showed a little bit of blood. Her blood work was not perfect. Tim has been working on it. I think you're going to see a much better version of her next Sunday at the Poconos. I believe so, anyway. And I just don't have enough reason to take her out of the Sire Stakes. She did trot 56 in the piece, showing 3 out of 5 out of blood. So there has to be at least a second or more in there if you clean that up. We didn't see it the other day, but she was raced kind of hard. And as I said, her blood work wasn't perfect, and Tim is working on that. I just don't see any reason to move her out of there just yet. If this was the second Stallion/Sire Stake leg, then I could be talked into it. But it's not. Blue Rare, we just talked about Blue Rare. This was predicated on an email that came to me asking about the Peaceful Way and asking about what her next start is. Her next start will be in the grassroots, but, well, that's not true. Her next stake start will be in the grassroots. Her next start will be in the horses that raced in the grassroots class that's written for Thursday. She's entered in there anyway. We'll see if she comes out. Diosa Della Danza, I'm going to school her on Wednesday. We had an option to race her in a mixed maiden this week at the Meadows. I wasn't feeling that very much. I'll just school her in 57 or so, or 58 on Wednesday. She'll come back a week later to race, I believe, at Northfield. Don't quote me on that. It might be Scioto. But either way, her last mile does not show enough vowels. What I mean by that is there's a couple of I's missing. She was interfered with twice, and quite frankly, as Justin put it, probably cost her second place. Don't ask again, same thing. She'll be schooling tomorrow, though. We're working on getting her blood work cleaned up also. She'll school tomorrow. I'd like to see her go a mile 59 or 2 minutes. I won't be there. I'll be training Hanger 1 in another state as she is schooling, but I expect a decent mile from her. Dune. Somebody said, Dune, gee, she's really having trouble in Michigan. Not really. Aside from one start, she was sick. She's been beat by one filly, I think, for the most part. She's having trouble with one filly in Michigan. That happens from time to time. And I suspect, as the year wears on, that will either stay the same or change. But she is racing good in Michigan. But again, I think this comes down to expectations of the division. I had them, you had them, and expectations of the filly. She's racing the plowed fields also, right? Those little fair tracks in Michigan. So, race her out the rest of her season. And somebody else asked, is James going to drive her in the final? That'll be up to James and Donnie, I think. I certainly would have no problem with James going to drive the horse at, I believe the finals are at Northville. I wouldn't have a problem with him doing it. Depending on the day, if it's a Wednesday, then it's possible. It's something I can talk to Donnie about. I can't imagine Donnie would have a problem with it, but I haven't given it much thought other than what I just said to you, and obviously Earl, one of our partners. Hanger 1, I just told you I'm training him tomorrow here. We did get his blood work back. We did figure out there were a few things to work on. His liver was high, not crazy high, but a little high, and his AST was high enough where he did tie up on race day last week. So we need to remedy that, but that shouldn't be a problem for tomorrow's training mile, and then the subsequent race mile after that. He's a Fearless Peter. High weight count. Somebody said, well, I thought you were putting him in the sale. And I talked about this in a number of videos. So I don't know if maybe you don't watch the videos, so this isn't going to be very helpful. But weight count of 12.2 was very, very high. We drew his blood, his weight count on Monday. It was back to normal. He should be fine for Wednesday, but if he races poorly on Wednesday, that will be it for He's a Fearless Peter with us. That's an absolute certainty. Millie Girl, somebody said, is she being turned out? Somebody else said, shouldn't we just turn her out? I'm indifferent. I don't think another start is going to hurt the filly. I would like to get a 2-year-old mark on her. She'll race Saturday likely. Her blood work was screwed up also, and I think that was the tipping point for me. You know, I was on the fence also. Are we going to turn her out? Are we going to race her? But then we got our blood work back and realized that it was kind of messed up. Getting it back to normal will help us make that decision. Regardless, the decision's not hard. She's going to have a start, maybe 2 at the most left, and out to the field with old Millie. Rico Tubbs, I talked about him from the outset, where Ronnie had said, you know, just not quite as comfortable on the front end. We have a few little things we have to work on maintenance-wise with him, but I thought overall the horse raced well. Ronnie drove him well. He drove him properly. Just a 2-year-old green trouter, and he got picked off the wire. Riding the Rodeo, we talked about her also from the outset in depth. I think you know, we can race her in the Prospect Series a little bit more. I think she is one of the better fillies there, but I don't think we're going to overstretch Riding the Rodeo. So at some point in the next 2-3 starts, she's likely going to head to the field. Royal Duchess is going to qualify on Wednesday. Interested to see her and Capistrano Knights are going to qualify on Wednesday. I was going to school Capistrano Knights, but we're going to change her equipment around a little bit and put her in and qualify and see how she does on Wednesday. If I feel there's any discomfort or soreness from her, then she is going directly back to the field, both her and Royal Duchess. But both those fillies are ready to go now. I trained them both in 2.4 and 2.5 the other day. They were both good. Sterling Hanover, same type of thing. Just want to get some experience under his belt. So he is going to train down. He is training right now. Dominic said there's no issues with his breathing. Everything seems fine. So we'll see how he is over the next month. That puts us into September. His only starts would be, like I said, experience starts if we get him there. If there's any sort of trepidation training him down, then I won't hesitate at all just to pull the plug, shut him down, and turn him out for a couple of months. Blue Ventura is going to school on Wednesday, and then he'll be ready to go. That will be probably a week from Wednesday, I guess, is when Blue Ventura will be back. Melisandre's going out to the field. We'll have her out this week. Again, probably 3 weeks off. I know my buddy Johnny had messaged me and said, I don't get the timing of turning her out now, you know, with respect to selling her at Harrisburg. Well, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with timing. It has to do with the simple fact that she's tired. I drove her the other day. She just felt lethargic. It's twice now we took the flip-flops off her, and both times I didn't like the way she trotted, quite frankly. Just felt soft. So at least a couple of weeks off. Just leave her alone for a couple of weeks, bring her back. Yes, I'm trying to get a mark on her, but that won't happen overnight, right? Gotta work away at that. And that's what we will do with Melisandre. Memento Mori, I almost entered him in the BO because if he didn't get in, which he's not supposed to get in, we get our nomination money back. But as I said to my buddy David, him and Greg are always on top of the numbers. He said he's 90% sure he wouldn't get in. I said it would be very bad if he did, because I would scratch him, and we would have to then pay the starting fee on Memento Mori. So I just said it may not be worth the risk. You know, if you'd asked me a week ago, I'd be like, yeah, put him in. Who cares? He gets in, he gets in. He doesn't, he doesn't. But I do plan on sending him to Ontario immediately, so there's no point in doing that. He's just skinny. Needs some weight put on him. It's certainly not going to help him shipping him all the way to the Poconos and to get his head beat in, and then shipping him all the way back. Now, I guess the head beat in's not fair. Still tried him 55, 56 the other day, but it would be a huge waste of a start, in my opinion. Nassau, again, just a couple of weeks to freshen him up. He did not acclimate well to Northfield Park, not the way that I thought he would. Give him 2-3 weeks, just relax, bring him back, and then we'll start racing him. He'll be fine. And time is on my side. Tim and I had a lot of conversations. So we trained him in 58 on Saturday. He was great. Planned on racing him in the Open on Friday, and I wanted to race him on Saturday. There's no races on Saturday. We have 2 invitations to race him. I'm not going to say the tracks or where. Well, I'll tell you the first one, Poconos, next week. I can't give him 4 weeks off, 5 weeks off, whatever, and then just throw him back into the invitation at the Poconos. That would be absurd in my mind. He's just a week from being ready to do that. You know, I know they're going to put him in the Open, obviously. They have to. Of course, he doesn't get like 50,000 paid last 3. He'd have to race in the Open at the Meadows, which he'd have to race in the Open anywhere. So just use it as a tightener. We do have an option to race him next week somewhere, and we may take them up on it depending on how he feels and how he races on Friday. Now, Friday will have to be a conservative mile. Every so often I can do that once in a while. So that's the plan for him. See how he races. Reassess after Friday or Saturday. See if he's tight enough, feels strong, which I know he will be. He always races great off a short layoff. Race him and see how he feels. So he's ready to go again. Now, I'll finish my video with a quick update on the mares, because there are 2 mares that are not in foal. She Sits at the Bar couldn't get in foal. She was in foal to King of the North, absorbed the foal, and then got an infection in her uterus or somewhere in there, and we couldn't get her in full this season. So it's not the end of the world. I mean, it does suck. I'm very disappointed, but that's breeding. So she's going to sit for the season. Same type of thing. My Jazz, late foal, didn't get in full, but after seeing how gorgeous the Quattro de Julio colt is and the Captain Corey, I mean, it's okay. A lot of these horses that were late foals also, we were lucky. Like Muscle Chrome, it's almost like a stud walks by her, she gets in full. She's been late full, like late May, but always, we'll try her one time, and if she gets in full, fine. She's in full to Father Patrick. 1 breeding, in full. She's a good girl. But My Jazz and She Sits at the Bar are not in full this season. They'll be rebred back very early next season. And obviously, I love having dialogue with everybody on where they should go. It's outside my purview and let's say my comfort zone as far as crosses, and I'll defer to. I like to use Steve and Alan, and obviously Robert in Europe has been super helpful. He helped out with the breeding too. The breeding of Back of the Neck to Path of Totality. He said, from what he sees, it would be a slam dunk. Obviously, there's no slam dunks in this game, but you understand what I'm talking about. So I love to talk to them about that, but ultimately, I'm not going to say, no, I want to breed her to this one. I'll defer to their judgment. They usually come up with 2 or 3 studs, and then, commercially speaking, doesn't really matter because we're keeping them. So, what are we going to lean to? That's how I ended up with International Money to Eyes of 10, because we've had great luck with International Money. Now, Pretty Eyes and Lies has not flexed her muscle, so to speak, this season, but I do believe there's a decent filly in there. And I think upon return, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll start from the top. Capistrano had a beach class and is back in full to beach class in Ontario. Eyes of 10, International Money. She is in full to International Money. Globetrotting, I think both Steve and Alan were adamant. The cross to Globetrotting and Tactical Approach was perfect. Even better than Tactical Landing. I don't know why. But they were both in lockstep in that regard. So we did breed Globetrotting to Tactical Approach. Lover's Play is confirmed in full to King of the North. I can't wait for that. Muscle Chrome in full to Father Patrick, which is good. Somebody said, well, it was actually Amy, I think, had asked me. She goes, do you still like Tomboy Strong as much as you did at the start of the year? Obviously, she's trotted in 55-4. I thought a 56 trotter put you in the winner's circle of a sire stake on a regular basis instead of being third beat 10, 11. I did get some disappointing news that there was quite a bit of snot in her nose today, but they were going to scope her and draw her blood. But this is the same type of situation with Perfect Thought, right? Scoped her, scoped pretty clean, drew her blood didn't show a whole lot, went down and raced her a little bit flat. Oh, next day she's sick. So it's not that plug your horse into a computer and it can tell you without a shadow of a doubt what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't work that way. So we'll see. But her mother, in full to Father Patrick. I had the Father Patrick breeding, and I believe it was Steve, and then Alan obviously confirmed. Both of them are usually in lockstep anyway, but I believe it was Steve that said, no, Father Patrick to Muscle Chrome is the way to go. Okay, cool. So we did. My Jazz did not get full. As I said, Path of Totality is in full. The back of the neck, that is New York. It's New York bred. Eglaire AM confirmed in full to TCI. That should be an interesting cross. As I said, she sits in the bar, isn't in full. State Park is in full to Tactical Approach. That is confirmed. Stay Special confirmed in full to Cannibal. Another New York bred. I don't know who came with Cannibal. I think that was Steve also. He said that was the best cross. I'm fine, either way. So Stay Special to Cannibal. And Pull the Shoes is confirmed in full to TCI. So those are our mares in full right now. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh my goodness. 12 horses. Those horses are all confirmed in full, and very happy. Obviously disappointed that the 2 mares did not get in full, but as I said, that's breeding. You think racing horses is not for the faint of heart. Breeding horses is a tough business. So now you have it. 30 minutes, 32 minutes. This is a Monday update. If you have questions that were not answered in this particular video, feel free. Drop me a line, email me, text me, call me, whatever you like. I'll be happy to update you in regards to whatever questions you have. So, with that, I am off. I'm going to be in Kentucky in about an hour, I believe. Lots of time. Good luck to everybody racing today, tomorrow, the rest of the week. Busy time of year, but you know what? It is summertime. I hope you're all having a great summer wherever you might be. Take care.